Hey everybody, I'm Pastor Jared here at Ridge United Methodist Church, and I want to welcome you to something new I'm doing called Teaching Tuesdays. Every Tuesday around the lunch hour, I'll be releasing these short 10 to 15 minute videos. I hope they'll give you something to chew on as you go about your day and maybe even the days to come, but each week I will be teaching you a small lesson. Maybe one about the Christian faith, what Christians believe, and what we believe in particular as United Methodist Christians. And then other weeks, I hope to give you some tools, ways to be thinking about your own spiritual journey, ways that you might be able to, or help you grow closer to God. Today, I want to offer you one such tool. It's a tool that simply maps out your Christian journey or your spiritual journey, whether or not you consider yourself to be a Christian. Every person is on a journey, and a spiritual one at that. So if you have a piece of paper lying around, go ahead and grab that along with a pencil or pen, whatever. And I want you to turn it into like the landscape sideways, the long ways, because we're going to be drawing a map of where we've been and significant experiences that have shaped, in particular, our spiritual selves. So on the left-hand side of the page, go ahead and make a dot that represents when you were born. Now you can label that the day, the time, the year, or even the location. I mean, if I was labeling mine, I'd put that I was born in Michigan. Part of the reason why I have so much love for particular Michigan sports teams is because I was born in Michigan and spent several years growing up there. I have a special love for that wonderful state. But I also know that prior to this dot, my life and yours have been shaped by those who've come before us. Obviously, our parents, our grandparents. Maybe there are places or people or even institutions that have, prior to our arrival, shaped and informed us in unique and particular ways. You're more than welcome to sketch those lines out as well. I've done that before, and it's really fascinating. My dad being adopted from South Korea, my mom, whose lineage spreads all and around throughout, not just Indiana, but throughout the East Coast. It's amazing to think about the forces that were at work prior to our arrival that have shaped us spiritually. But for the sake of today's exercise, I want you just to be thinking about the time you were born and then today, whatever the day is or the date that you are watching this video. We know, of course, and we hope, rather, that this line will continue on. No one knows what tomorrow brings. Jesus says that today has enough trouble of its own, so don't worry so much about what's to come. There's a big lesson in that. But today we're thinking about when we were born to today's date and mapping out the highs, the lows, the ups, the downs, the backs, the forwards, the 2 steps forward, the 5 steps back of our own spiritual journey. I want you to be thinking in a couple categories that might inform or shape as you're thinking about your life's journey. Number one is the people. The people in your life who have shaped you for better and for worse. Those people who have shown you the very best of God, and those people who have shown you the opposite. I want to highlight one such person who affected my life at a very important age. My years, in fact, in confirmation, in high school, and really beyond, but especially in those formative teenage years. I called him then Pastor Frank. Most who know him today call him Bishop. But Pastor Frank was my pastor during these formative years, and he had a profound effect on my life in deeply positive and powerful ways. Whenever I think of Pastor Frank, I think of the passion that he had, the ways that he spoke, the ways that he preached, the way that he lived, taught me that there is actually something at stake in choosing to follow Jesus. Like, it has deeply personal and incredible impact on the world and the ways that we're called to live. I mean, when Pastor Frank spoke, my attention was captivated. There was passion, there was joy, there was purpose, there was depth. When Frank spoke, I love Pastor Frank. I love now Bishop Frank. But he was one such person who really pointed me to the very best of the God revealed in Jesus Christ. Now, that's one category, people. There are a whole host of others that I can name in my life, but that's one category. The next category I want to give you are those moments that have shaped your life. Those moments that, in John Wesley's words, your heart was strangely warmed. When John Wesley fully became a Christian or fully yoked himself to Jesus, his heart, he writes in his journal, was strangely warm that night. Now, the moment that has really turned my life is three moments that were close together, and they were anything but a straight line. They were wiggles, they were ups and they were downs, they were backs and forths. I mean, it was a really difficult time between the moment I was baptized in 8th grade to the time, or for the months that followed. You see, I was baptized after confirmation. And then soon thereafter, my father had emergency open heart surgery. A very scary moment for the lives of him, the life of our family, and then for me. It raised a lot of questions, not only about life and death, but also about God and God's presence or the lack thereof. I know that was a powerful time in my life spiritually, in ways that weren't always great. Soon thereafter, I went on a mission trip to pre-Katrina New Orleans, and then later that summer to the only Bible camp I ever went to. These 4 moments all came together and informed or shaped or opened my ears up to God calling me to pastoral ministry. Out of the hornet's nest of those 6 to 9 months, my life was deeply changed and transformed, and the trajectory thereafter was never the same. For better and for worse, these moments, this season of my life has probably been one of the biggest impacts on me spiritually. I wonder what it'd be for you. What moments or experiences have deeply shaped and informed your lives, for better and for worse? Well, we have people, we have moments, and then I want you to be thinking about the category of place. What places have informed you or impacted you? Are there any in your life? For me, it happened on a mission trip to Southeast China. In the end of my college years, I got to go on a mission trip to Hong Kong, to Guangzhou, to Southeast China, and we got to do a lot of different mission projects and some touring. But one particular moment in this place had a deep impact on my life. We went to an orphanage where children with disabilities were living. Not long before our arrival, a Christian missionary organization took over the orphanage and were making some significant improvements. To give you a bit of context, when we arrived there, the children were eating at tables and they were using their chopsticks for their meals. But a lot of them had scarring on their arms, in part because the previous agency would just cook giant bowls of rice and throw it on the floor, and the kids would literally scratch and claw in order to feed themselves. It was a horribly tragic situation, and yet they were on their way toward improvement, to these children being loved. One moment in particular in this place was when I was holding 2 of the children and I was just singing a song. Maybe you've learned it when you were a child, called Jesus Loves the Little Children of the World. Tears were streaming down my face because I realized in that moment that even in the worst places or even the most difficult places, God's people not only show up, but they intentionally go there to redeem, to heal, to bring light and life. I don't know. Every time I think about that place and that moment, I think of the ways in which my life now is so deeply shaped in ways that make me want to impact the world in which I live. Martin Luther King Jr. used to say it's all right to talk about white robes over yonder, but people need some shoes and clothes down here. It's okay to talk about the golden streets above, but people are hungry and need 3 square meals a day today here. And so I think about that moment. I think about Martin Luther King's words. I think about that place when I got to go to China, in large part thanks to the people who supported me financially to be able to go. All right, those are people, those are moments, those are places. And then the last thing I want to offer you, a category to be thinking about, are institutions. Institutions, those could be schools, those could be employers, those could be churches that have shaped or impacted your life. One particular institution that shaped me is Duke University, where I went to seminary, and that's just such a powerful season of my life and in our lives, living in Durham, North Carolina. My wife teaching in Durham Public Schools. The ways in which the university, the Divinity School, was centered in a very diverse and large university that prior to I had not had been exposed to in those ways. And man, my life was deeply transformed by people, by mentors, by churches, by places, by the conversations I had, the food I ate, the people we saw and talked with. I mean, that has had a profound impact on my life. Of course, along the way, there are other people, there are other institutions. I think of my undergraduate experience, the people there, the mentors, the experiences, the places, the moments I've had. And I also know, of course, the ways in which my wife has had the biggest and most impact on my life spiritually. I wonder what people, what moments, what places, and what institutions you would put on your life map, your spiritual map. I hope you'll take time to reflect on that today. And I hope you'll try it again, maybe in the day to come or the week to come. One of the neat things I'm realizing every time I do this with confirmands, or even in my own spiritual discipline, or every time I try this tool, is that there are some moments, some people, some places, some institutions that are always on my map. But every time I do it, there are other people I think of. There are other memories that are awakened. There are institutions that come to mind that I previously left off. Every time I do it, it's a little bit different. And every time I learn something new about the ways that God has showed up in my life, on the mountaintops and in the valleys, through positive experiences with people and through negative ones. My ups and downs, my forwards, my backwards, my spiritual journey has been deeply shaped by the people, the moments, the places, and the institutions. I wonder what those people, those places, those moments, and institutions are for you. Hey, I hope this helps. I hope it gives you ways to think about your ups and downs. I hope it gives you ways that show you how God has been at work in your life and continues to be today. May God bless you and keep you, and may God be noticeable to you in new ways, in fresh ways, in life-giving ways. And may you be one of these people that has a positive impact on someone else. Until next Tuesday, I'm Pastor Jared. God bless and take care.